Hey friends, Pastor Bill Walden here with Build Up the Church. This is a devotional word for September 18th, 2024. We are in the book of 2 Corinthians, continuing on here in chapter 11, starting at verse 16. The Apostle Paul was backed into a corner by his children. They were impressed with deceitful, self-serving, so-called super apostles that came in after Paul left the church, and they sought to gain favor for themselves. They sought to gain followers. They wanted to get money from the Corinthians, and in order to do so, they had to discredit the Apostle Paul, and the Corinthians bought into it. They forgot how much Paul had served them, and they forgot the kind of man that Paul was, and rather they were impressed with these people that had great oratory skills and were just impressive in the flesh according to human standards, but had nothing on Paul regarding the things of the Spirit. And the Apostle Paul has been forced to defend himself, and it's just a sad, really pathetic thing that he had to go through. But here in 2 Corinthians chapter 11, starting at verse 16, he continues on, and he does get a bit sarcastic with them. It's a holy sarcasm to kind of carry the force of the argument a little bit deeper into their hearts. So we pick it up at verse 16. I'm going to mostly read and make a few comments. The passage stands alone so well on its own and deserves to be heard. So Paul says this, "Again I say, don't think that I am a fool to talk like this." Once again, I'm reading out of the New Living Translation. "But even if you do, listen to me as you would to a foolish person while I boast a little." He says, you think I'm a fool? Okay, I'm going to act like a fool. Verse 17. "Such boasting is not from the Lord, but I am acting like a fool. And since others boast about their human achievements, I will too. After all, you think you are so wise, but you enjoy putting up with fools." Paul didn't pull any punches. He called these people fools. They were imposters. He called them angels or ministers of Satan. They dressed up and they made themselves look like ministers of God, but they were not. They were false teachers and false apostles. Verse 20, you put up with it when someone else enslaves you, when they take everything that you have, take advantage of you, takes control of everything, and slaps you in the face. I'm ashamed to say that I've been too weak to do that. Once again, a holy sarcasm to make a point. But whatever they dare to boast about, I'm talking like a fool again, I dare to boast about it too. Listen to this list of accomplishments that validated the apostleship of Paul. Are they Hebrews? So am I. Are they Israelites? So am I. Are they descendants of Abraham? So am I. Are they servants of Christ? I know I sound like a madman, but I have served him far more. I have worked harder, been put in prison more often, been whipped times without number, and faced death again and again. 5 different times the Jewish leaders gave me 39 lashes. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was stoned. 3 times I was shipwrecked. Once I spent a whole night and day adrift at sea. I have traveled on many long journeys. I have faced danger from rivers and from robbers. I have faced danger from my own people, the Jews, as well as from the Gentiles. I have faced danger in the cities, in the deserts, on the seas. I have faced danger from men who claim to be believers but are not. I have worked hard and long, endured many sleepless nights. I have been hungry and thirsty, and have often gone without food. I have shivered in the cold, without enough clothing to keep me warm. They hadn't. They were depending upon their oratory skills and their good looks and their overbearing personalities to win the favor of the Corinthians. And the Corinthians were buying into it. They were letting themselves get manipulated and spiritually bullied. Verse 28, "Then besides all this, I have the daily burden of my concern for all the churches." Besides all the physical stuff, really the harder stuff is the stuff of the mind and the heart. He's thinking about all these churches he had planted, all these people he had ministered to and brought to Christ. Are they doing okay? Are they safe? Are they being protected? Verse 29, "Who is weak without my feeling that weakness? Who is led astray and I do not burn with anger?" Holy anger when people were leading God's people astray. Verse 30, if I must boast, I would rather boast about the things that show how weak I am. God, the Father of our Lord Jesus, who is worthy of eternal praise, knows I am not lying. When I was in Damascus, the governor under King Aretas kept guards at the city gates to catch me. I had to be lowered in a basket through a window in the city wall to escape from him. The super apostles would have laughed Paul to scorn. They would never have imagined themselves suffering for the people that they were receiving payment from. They never would have imagined going without food and going without clothing and being beaten and all those things. Shepherds do that kind of thing to protect their sheep, and pastors do those kinds of things to protect their churches. I know I'm a pastor, and this might sound a little self-serving, and I don't mean it that way, but pastors go through things that the congregants never know, and they shouldn't know. They shouldn't need to know it. But the congregants in the church should know the heart of the pastor who cares for them and takes care of them. So the Apostle Paul here, walking in the footsteps of Jesus, whom Isaiah calls the suffering servant. Jesus gave his life for the sins of mankind. Paul said over and over again, I die daily. He says to the Corinthians, death is working in us. We're denying ourselves more and more, more and more. In other words, I'm coming to the end of myself every day. There's less of me so that there can be more of Jesus, so that when I'm with you, you're not getting me, you're getting Jesus. When the Corinthians were with those super apostles, they were getting the super apostles. When the Corinthians were with Paul, they were getting Jesus. So, dear Christian, please be very careful who you allow to influence you and who you give permission to be an authority over your life. Make sure they look like Jesus, primarily. And then I would also say secondarily, make sure they look like the Apostle Paul. So, some things to think about. God bless you. Thanks for watching.